Welcome to the Digital Accomplice Podcast. Today we're joined by Laura Goldstone from Adaptive Intelligence. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Dane. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to always start out with some wins. So what would you say has been like a recent content marketing win for you?
Recent content marketing win. I was thinking about things that my team was working on, and I think that something that has gone well lately has been the content ideation because that was a challenge for them. So I have a team. I had at the time of this program, I had a team of two senior writers and a senior designer. And I had noticed that our content production was actually a little bit slower than we had hoped, and so I talked to my team, said, what's going on, wanted to empathize with them, kind of understand where they were coming from, and they each individually said to me how coming up with ideas out of nowhere was actually pretty challenging for them. So I said, okay, so we got to think about why. Why is it challenging? Why is coming up with brand new ideas daunting? Where can we come up with some ideas? So I listened to them. We kind of brainstormed a little bit. And what happened was I put together a program for my team. And essentially, first I put together a deck. It had like 30 slides in it, had all these different places that ideas can come from, just sources, inspiration, where to come up with ideas, where to look for reference points, things like that. And so I walked my team through that. And then I organized a team meeting. So it was my team members, and I was not included. I organized it for them, but I said, I'm not going to be here. This is just for you guys. They would meet every single month and brainstorm new ideas, workshop ideas together, collaborate, get feedback, and iterate on the things they were working on together. And so then I also changed the OKR from output to idea, because I think they were kind of struggling with making sure their ideas were strategically aligned. And I said, you know what, let's back up. First, we just got to get enough ideas happening first before we can make sure they're vetted and filtered and come to fruition. So we had that program. We changed the OKR system, changed the collaboration a little bit. And what ended up happening was we saw our output, so the things that were strategically aligned and greenlit, boosted by over 400%. So over 4 times what we were producing before. Some months it was 5 times. And I think that was really successful for them because it showed them that they just needed a little bit of structure, but they were really receptive to it. They could make it their own, and it was really all on them to come up with the ideas. And they realized, oh, I do have all of these places that I can come up with brand new ideas for content, and I can make them strategically aligned, and I can make them work. And so I think that program was a big success for the team. So I was really happy to see that they not just were receptive to it, but that they owned it really nicely and elevated it themselves. They actually, since then, they meet more often now. I had set it up as monthly, but they now meet every other week. So they really enjoyed it. They saw the value in it. The output has soared. The number of ideas has soared. Everything has been much better for them and for the brand as a whole. All their OKRs, they're hitting much better these quarters. So I'm really happy to see that. And I think that that's kind of a way to evaluate a challenge and then come through with it for the team and find that was that could become a success for us all.
Yeah, 400% improvement is by any measure
Yeah,
a resounding
that's a big
success. So let's talk about the flip side of that. What would you say right now is going to be your biggest marketing challenge?
Yeah, biggest marketing challenge. I feel like there are a couple of groups that I'm seeing emerge of challenges. I think, for one, humanizing and differentiating content and making sure that it's resonating. Lately, that seems to be something that is on the top of everybody's mind. I think measurement and proving our value is always a challenge because the needle's always moving and people's perception of success always shifts. So I think I know we'll talk about measurement in a little bit, but I think that something that I'm seeing across my team lately is balancing the personalization side of content with scale and having to do that with limited resources. So, what I mean is sort of looking at content across the whole buyer journey and thinking, okay, do we have enough content per topic? Like each time a sales rep comes to us and is like, I need more content about topic X or topic Y, we've got 3 people. Do we have enough resources to create more content on that topic? What do we have for that topic? What do we have for that audience group? What do we have for that funnel stage? How deep do we need to go in terms of personalizing the content and getting really technical and specific in the angle versus, okay, do we want to be a little bit higher level, a little bit broader, take it up the funnel a little bit, make it more widely reaching so that we can be a little bit more efficient and get more mileage out of each content asset. That's sort of always a challenge, I suppose, always something to work on, always something to balance. And there's it's an art and a science too. But I do think that that is something that we're always up against and always trying to do well with.
Right. Yeah, always going to be a challenge for sure. And so, on that note, aside from this video podcast we're on, what else might you be doing with video right now? And maybe more importantly, what would you like to be doing with video?
Right, right. Video has been a nice boost for my team, especially. We often have videos as part of our content packages. So we'll usually start with some sort of idea, usually takes the form of a blog post or a one sheet to start with. And then our team creates a whole package around that idea, social media, graphics, sales slides, things like that. And we've seen some success in repurposing our content in bite-sized, more digestible manners as videos. And we find, okay, that's where the engagement soars. That's where we can really tell the highlights of the story in a really engaging format. So we've done a bit with that. Those work really well with case studies. We use our videos, we use like a graphic video, and we create these case study videos that distill the whole story into a few clear points. We've seen a lot of success with those. We also, the other piece of video that's been successful is taking something a little bit more technical or a little bit more complicated, like a market report or an ebook that's really extensive. And the challenge of creating a video, it's really invigorating because it allows you to dive really deep into the topic and to the content, but then to figure out what's really important here, what's really engaging, what are people actually going to care about, and try to convey those messages sometimes in layman's terms and in a much more engaging design. So those have worked well for us. And something we've been talking about lately is using video in emails. So we've been trying out different things with our email marketing, and we've never embedded a video into the email or shared a video via email. But we were thinking, what if we take the channel of email marketing and we add something successful like our video marketing and try to combine them? So we're thinking about doing that. We're trying to organize around it now. But I figure, why not? I mean, it's something that is eye-catching and engaging and gets the point across. And if it's in a format and through like that channel of email that we know people already are always going to be scouring and engaging with, then we should try to combine the two. So that's our next little adventure in marketing and try
Right.
to do a little bit more with video.
Excellent. Yeah, that's going to be an adventure for sure. So we're halfway through the interview. We haven't even heard the words AI yet. So what are you doing right now with AI, and what's working there and what's not?
Yeah. AI, it's such a loaded term, isn't it? I think that there are so many different ways to come at it and so many different ways to use it. It's funny because with this, research, this new boost of generative AI, I think some people forget that AI, in some ways, is already so deeply integrated into some of the things we're doing. Like, for example, when we're doing A/B testing and emails and ads and things like that, and having the system evaluate against OKRs and look, okay, or not OKR, sorry, KPIs, and looking at, okay, which one of these two subject lines works better, which one of these ads works better. And then the machine learns which one is better and chooses and then makes those decisions thereafter. And that's wonderful because it's automating those types of decisions. That's the same decision we would make ourselves. It's much more efficient that way. So we're doing that a lot. Anything that we can automate, especially reporting. Reporting has been a big one for us. Automating those, sometimes breaking down content into smaller bites, or trying to convert one piece of content into either another format or have it appeal to a different audience. We've been using some tools for that as well. I also think we've found some success with AI in terms of generating transcripts, so especially on videos. Our sales team records their client calls, and they have this AI tool that takes a transcript of each call. It goes into the system. And then what we on the marketing team do is we scour those transcripts and we search for certain terms, or we set up reports so that if a certain term comes up, we automatically get notified. And that way we can dive deeper if we need to, but we use it as like a capture and search tool. That's been very helpful for us. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to either manually look through everything or ask a sales rep, so what'd you talk about today? Or what topics have been coming up in calls? Automating that and having, AI tools capture that has been very helpful as a way to kind of complement the human generated things that we're doing, that we're big on, like the creativity and the strategy, and opening us up to be able to have more time to strategize and write and create and brainstorm and communicate and all of those things. So using it as as kind of a collaborative tool like that has been pretty helpful. And I think just exploring it more and playing around with it more and testing it more, and kind of seeing where it's most successful and where it could be most helpful. My current company is B2B mostly, and it's an advertising and analytics platform. We work a lot with advertising agencies. So it's very complex, it's very nuanced. Those types of topics sometimes don't come as easily in terms of using Gen AI for that. So we look for, okay, what else can we do? Do we have it edit? Do we have it do social media monitoring for us? What else can we do? Maybe we put a news article in and we have it summarized for us or something like that. So just finding any type of opportunity to either automate or simplify something, make it more efficient, so that it frees us up to do a little bit more of the human generated activities that we enjoy and that only we can do.
Yeah, there you go. We're still valuable as humans, right?
Yeah, we still play
So,
a part.
so you've touched on this, but I want to dive a little deeper. How are you repurposing your content? You mentioned the videos, but let's get into that a little bit more. How are you repurposing the content, and what's working there and what's not?
Okay, repurposing is one of my favorite topics. I love especially training my team on it so that they can figure out which areas they can repurpose and what we should be doing each time, and how we can be thinking about our content, trying to get as much mileage out of one idea across our different devices or channels or audience segments. So that content brainstorm program that I mentioned before, content repurposing is a huge part of that, a huge section of that resource and of that program for my team. We might have, put an idea out there a couple of months ago, and everything changes so quickly that we might have a different view on it now, or we might be able to come up with a different format now because our bandwidth shifted or our resources shifted. So maybe a couple months ago we wrote a blog post, and now we should look at that and say, okay, should we elevate it? Should we now create the video? Do we now have time to put a little bit more technical language into a sales slide? How can we look at what already exists and try to do something else with it, try to evolve it, try to update it, add to it? I love the topic of it. I think that it's so important. And I think it's a huge opportunity, because if you're repurposing something, that means that something already exists. So you've already put some manpower into it, some brain power into it. There's already been effort that you've already expelled there, and so you kind of owe it to yourself to look at other ways that you can just get as much momentum out of one concept or one topic, make it as efficient as possible. I love improving efficiencies like that. I think that sometimes it's as simple as having an idea and saying, okay, what formats have we done before and what formats could we do now? Sometimes the repurposing comes in terms of audience segments. Okay, we created this topic for this particular audience segment. Well, maybe now we should repurpose it for other audience groups. Shift it a little bit there, try to go in a different route there. Look at the data behind it. Okay, which content assets are working and resonating the most, and how can we repurpose that content? And maybe there's a topic that people really like. We did one standalone blog post on it a couple months ago. Maybe we should repurpose that idea and now create a whole series around it. We've done that before as well. So bringing some data into it too can help make the repurposing even more impactful. But yeah, there's so many different directions to go when it comes to repurposing, and so many different things, because you can't do everything all at once and you can't do everything every time. So really taking that step back and thinking, okay, what exists and what can we do with it, and how can we shift this and get as much out of it as possible across all the funnel stages, all the audience groups, all the content formats. There's so many ways to do this. What's our bandwidth now, and what can we do to continue repurposing pieces and trying to keep that effectiveness and efficiency high across the board?
Yeah. And you touched on this next issue. We just kind of mentioned all the content you're doing. You got to measure that, right? So, what are you doing actually with measurement, and what's working, what's not?
Yeah, measurement also is constantly evolving too, right? Like, even what you should be looking at. We're always told as marketers, like, here's what you need to look at. Here's what you don't need to look at. Here are the vanity metrics. Oh, I thought those were important metrics. So I think that also when there are these higher level brand efforts, sometimes it can be hard to really quantify like psychometrics. If somebody sees, a billboard or something and they're walking by and they see it, how can you really quantify that happened? So we try to capture data everywhere we possibly can, knowing that there are going to be some gaps. There are going to be some places where, not everything is going to be 100% perfect, but we really do try to rely on the places where we can. Ads are a great one. So we do a lot of digital advertising, display native video ads. When we put those out there, we look at which KPI matters most to us for that campaign or for that media type. So, sometimes we're just going to care if a display ad gets delivered. Sometimes we're going to care more if a video is watched through to completion, or sometimes we're going to care if somebody clicks on a native ad and is brought to a landing page. So we try to align our KPIs with our strategy based on what we've been putting together for a particular campaign, and gathering those and then matching them also across GA4. So we do have the basic metrics. We look at blog traffic, but I think that what I try to do with the data is not just look at the raw numbers and say, oh, that's a 10 and it used to be a 5. That's great. I like to analyze it and say, what story does the data tell us? Like, what do we need to understand here? For example, what topics do people care about most? That's not something that's just going to be generated in a report, but you might be able to look at, the blog posts that have the most engagement across a couple of months, and you look at trends over time. Try to understand why. Why is this topic so important to people? Why are these blog posts getting more clicks than those? Why are these ads getting more impressions than those? Really trying to dive as deep into those data sets as possible. I like to look also at, what formats do people like to engage with most? Because that can also feed back into that content repurposing piece. If right now people really want more videos and we have some content from a couple months ago that is just in blog post form, then guess what we should do next? We should take those and repurpose them and create videos. So really looking at that data, understanding it, trying to figure out what measurements matter to us based on either the campaign or the time, or even the strategy that we're trying to get across right now. I think also internally, of something that comes up with measurement is what matters to our company right now too, because our goals as a company might be shifting. And so kind of managing up and saying, okay, like what do our CEOs want to see right now? What does our company leadership care about? Are we really pushing the brand efforts? Do we want to try to put a little bit more resources on the PR side? Do we really need to generate leads this quarter and boost that metric? So really understanding what success looks like and how it evolves, and then getting the raw data and making sense of the raw data, and working through that, and knowing that it is an art and a science, and it's going to change. So you kind of have to always be on top of it, have everything set up. That's where also those automations can help out. Have everything set up so that at any given moment, if you need to dive a little bit deeper into one area or another, you already have that foundation laid, and you can do that where you need to.
Right. Okay, so now it's time to take all that stuff we just talked about and wrap it all up with a bow. It's time for the big finish. What would be your biggest marketing piece of advice for the audience out there?
This is a wonderful question, and I think I want to get meta on people. I think that it comes down to learning how to communicate. I think that understanding what the need is, going back to the last point about knowing what success looks like, and thinking about what are some creative ways to fill those gaps. How do we communicate that internally and show the value of the efforts that we're doing? How do we fully understand and craft strategies that matter and are going to lead to plans and execution that's going to matter? And creating that beautiful holistic cycle of marketing. I think being able to close that loop and understanding all of the pieces and how they all interact with each other. I think that is a really valuable skill. So taking a step back, connecting everything, understanding how it all works together, and then communicating internally and externally. Just the business value, the meaning of certain things. I once talked to this Navy vet. He had done a whole leadership training session, and I asked him for a piece of his advice, and he said he talked a lot about the communication element, and said that you can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate it, doesn't really matter, does it? I'm like, oh my gosh, it doesn't. Like, you have to be able to get your point across, to understand what exists, and then learn how to communicate the need to change things, or the need to elevate things, or add things, or try new things, or understand data a little bit better. So I think in all of the topics that we covered today, from the content repurposing and new tools like Gen AI and measurement, of course, I think that connecting those dots over time and having that holistic view, and then communicating that value, and figuring out how to really let your ideas land. That's really going to set people apart from the rest, and help people figure out their sweet spot and where to lean in, and really where to be able to kind of tie both their passion and that business value add into one. So that's the hope I have. Connecting dots strategically, getting that full picture of everything, and then learning how to communicate, how to strategize and solve problems. You'll become indispensable.
There you go. Sage advice from Laura Goldstone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.